Now, ladies and gentlemen, mental wellness is essential for active aging and ensuring a good quality of life in our silver years. Today, we are honored to have with us Dr. Chong Mei Sian. We will have her to share with us about this topic on mental wellness. Dr. Chong is a senior consultant, a geriatrician and medical director of the geriatric practice. She graduated from the NUS in 1995. She later pursued specialist training in geriatric medicine in 2000 and obtained a specialist accreditation thereafter. So with this, I'll hand over the stage to Dr. Chung. Can we give her a round of applause once again?
Hello, hi. Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you very much for staying till the end of the talk. But before I start, can I just have a show of hands to say how many of you in the audience is more than 50 years old? Okay, good. That's why you're here, for mental wellness. How many of you are more than 60 years old? Fantastic. How many of you are more than 70 years old? Wonderful. 80? Fantastic. Are you more than 90? The sole hand? No, okay. You're more than 80. Okay, so today I'm supposed to spend the next 40 minutes with you on talking about continuing on the road to happiness, mental wellness, and active aging. I think this is a very big topic which I've spent most of my career working on, and I think we might not be able to cover everything in 40 minutes, but at least I want to give you a glimpse of what are the pertinent points which you should take home when you actually look at this topic. So I think all of us read the newspapers every day, and everyone knows that Singapore's population is aging rapidly. I think what is very important is that by the time you hit 2030, there's going to be 800,000, which is about 17 to 20% of the population who are going to be aged 65 and above. But what we are concerned about is if you look at men and women, we have one of the highest longevity in the world, where women actually live much longer than men. But importantly, have you noticed that the number of years spent in disability for men are 10 years and women in 13 years? And hence, it's very, very important that there should be measures you want to take, because life should not be just about what we call the quantity of life, but we should look more at the quality of life, which is perhaps more important. So as a geriatrician, what is important is this thing called compression of morbidity theory. So our aim is not that when you're born, we develop disability, let's say at 70 years old, and you spend the next 10 years in disability until death. And hence, even with a longer lifespan, we do not want that you start your disability at 70, and you end your disability at 90, where then you actually extend the period in bad health, rather than what we're trying to do is to extend so that you probably start your disability later, but yet this area is actually compressed so that we spend less time in disability. I think this slide is very important because when you read the newspapers, you have to interpret some of the things they are doing in this context, which is that all the active aging which you read in the newspapers are trying to tackle this so that we start disability later. Then all the end of life, all the talking about advanced care planning, is to actually determine that we spend the least amount of time in disability. And these are two principles which we have to be quite clear about when we look at policies, instead of some people saying, oh, people want to put you in a nursing home, or people want you to die faster, or things like that. But that this period of disability is the shortest. And hence, for me, for the rest of this talk, I'll concentrate on this, that we will focus on active aging as well as the beginning of disability so that we can actually promote good health as long as possible. I think importantly, surveys have actually shown that 42% of people who are aged more than 65 have a functional limitation. Functional limitation, we talk about people who have difficulties walking, people who have difficulties in their memory, who have difficulties bathing, dressing, who have incontinence. And 25% of older persons have one or more chronic conditions and also have one or more geriatric syndromes. I'll discuss a bit about geriatric syndromes a bit later so that you understand what geriatricians do. And in addition to changing physical and health circumstances, older adults tend to spend less of their leisure time socializing and communicating as they grow older. And these events actually together result in vulnerability as they age. And hence, I want to ask a question for us to reflect on. Is wellness an outcome, or is it a process? Is wellness an all or nothing phenomenon? You are either well or you're not well. Is wellness the same for all individuals? What is the role of an individual in determining wellness? I just want you to reflect while I continue talking, because I had a dinner once and we were talking among ourselves, and someone said, what would you prefer to lose, your mobility or your mind? So some might think that perhaps it is better to lose your memory first because I don't know what's happening and I don't suffer. Or is it that I lose my mobility but I'm very, very lucid? I think these are very individual decisions and individual values which we have to bring into context when we talk about aging, because everyone is different. And I'm not here to prescribe for a one-size-fits-all kind of thing, but just for you to reflect and decide how you want to age. And is wellness significant for older adults with functional health changes? That means once you have one disability, does it mean that you're not well, you're not happy, you don't have quality of life? I think we all have to reflect on this before we decide whether a person has lived well or not. And hence, and when we talk about historical perspective of wellness, if you look at Dunn, you notice that a lot of people don't just talk about physical health, but there is the importance of incorporating body, mind, and spirit when you talk about wellness. And Adele, again, they talk about wellness related to the sum of physical, mental, and meaning and purpose. I think these are very important values which you bring when you age, and we should bring in our spiritual values as well. And these have actually been elucidated in other wellness theories. And then now we look at it on the other way. We look at antecedents, attributes, and consequence. That means this is what happens before, what is being done, and what are the consequences. Antecedents, connecting with others, imagining opportunities, recognizing strength, seeking meaning, and in the process, becoming, integrating, relating, and living values and being well. So if you look at antecedents, connecting with others, empowering goals, emotional support of each other when we each face an illness, sharing resources, network affiliation. Imagining opportunities, recognizing the need for change, generating goals, imagining options for realizing goals, recognizing our individual strengths and weaknesses, seeking meaning in what we are doing, and in attributes, becoming, realizing personally defined potential, continual development, that's why you're here on a Sunday, integrating purpose, maintaining by balancing values with life changes, establishing and modifying value rituals, and relating with a dynamic person and environment interactions and meaningful communications and social support. What happens following a circumstance of wellness is a holism, or what we call indivisibility, individuals placing their wellness in the foreground while keeping coexisting conditions and illness in the background, and day-to-day life experiences which are congruent with personality as well as value systems. I think these are the theories which will then carry out into a more practical realm when we talk about some of the other things. And health promotion is what we talk about in the process of enabling people to increase control over and to improve their health. And hence, you notice Health Promotion Board has actually put a lot of efforts into active aging. You know, some of you are actually wearing the watches which are actually provided to actually look at pedometer and to promote that. And like my own father, who's 77 years old, he's very proud because he gets $250 because he walks about 15,000 steps a day. And that's the way you want to promote active aging, which is what World Health Organization is also trying to do, that health needs actually reflect multi-level determinants, and hence the approach will require individual, interpersonal, community environment, and political strategies in order for good health. And while the process of wellness may intersect with health promotion, the goals are very, very different. So therein comes another way where we talk about successful aging, which a lot of people talk about. In successful aging, we then reflect, but most people here, even the lady who's above 80 years old, what is a successfully aged person? Does it mean that it is a person who can walk, who doesn't need help, whose mental, that means complete absence of disease, good vision and hearing, and independence? This is ideal, but how many of us will actually reach this stage? So we have to realize that this, while it is an ideal model of successful aging, it might not in reality happen if we actually start having some diseases. And in another study, they actually defined it even more stringently. You reach 90, yeah? You're not allowed to have dementia, you have good vision, hearing, and your independence. But this time, in addition, they have added in a social component. And in the third model, they've also looked at social and psychological components. So this brings back to all our theories on wellness, right? That is not just a physical problem, but it also includes in what we call psychological and social component, body, mind, and a modified model where you're probably independent. There might be a social component, there might be a psychological component. I'd like to show you a video now. Some of you might have seen this before.
我是王德顺，地地道道的沈阳人。一场 T 台走秀，让很多人认识了我。有人叫我最帅大爷，也有人说我一夜爆红。可是你知道吗？为了这一天，我足足准备了60年。24岁，我当话剧演员；44岁开始学英语；49岁创造了造型哑剧，到北京成了一名老北漂，没房没车，一切从头开始。50岁，我进了健身房，开始健身。57岁，我再次走上了舞台，创造了世界唯一的艺术形式，它叫活雕塑。70岁，我开始有意识地练腹肌。79岁，我走上了 T 台。我今年80岁了，还有梦，还有追求。相信我，人的潜能是可以挖掘的。当你说太晚了的时候，你一定要谨慎，它可能是你退却的借口。没有谁能阻止你成功，除了你自己。该炫自己的时候，千万不要对自己手软。我是王德顺，我是最炫的。
Very nice video, right? It shows him having gone through life, having gone through bankruptcy, going to Beijing again, and rebuilding his life, resilience, emotional resilience. And hence, the other thing, physical activity. He doesn't say, oh, I'm too old already, I don't want to do weights. No, oh, I'm too old already, I don't want to do Zumba. No, I don't want to try anything new. He was willing to give it a try. And he said, at the end, right, I'm 80, I'm the fiercest. So he still has this very positive outlook, which is a social and the emotional component, other than the physical component, which actually, to me, reflects very well what we're talking about when we talk about wellness and mental wellness. Look at his positive attitude. And hence, I'm not here to actually have any medical or surgical promotions, but I want to tell you this is free. Please exercise. Exercise is going to actually prevent all the illnesses you are going to get. In older persons, I would actually recommend 4 types of exercises. Some will say, oh no, but I walk half an hour every day. Walking is only the aerobic aspect. You also need the resistance aspect. You need to work with weights to prevent your muscles from actually atrophying. We also recommend, in this case, Tai Chi. You work on balance as well. So you need all these components to come together in order to actually remain fit. And I cannot emphasize more about the importance of physical health and physical exercise regardless, because in a lot of our patients, we are telling them exercise, exercise, because this is probably going to be the thing which is going to keep everything at bay. The other thing is exercise actually gets your mood better as well, rather than you just sit down and you say, oh, I'm old already, there's really nothing I can do. Relationships and opportunities to contribute is important. So volunteerism is also something very important, and building good relationships, friendships as well as tackling social isolation. So people who are sociable, who go out in groups, are much better than those older persons who actually stay at home and they say, no, I don't want to go out, I just want to stay at home with my family members. We have found that those with a high degree of introversion and unwillingness to try new things actually do not do so well when they age as well. Then now we go on to more of the physical aspect. It doesn't mean that if you exercise every day and yet you have diabetes and you eat out, that you are actually going to get better, because you know that chronic disease might happen regardless of what you do in 92% of older adults. And hence, hypertension, diabetes, high cholesterol, heart disease, stroke, lung disease, cancers are common conditions, and they should be treated aggressively, especially when you are still in the well stages. We also talk about geriatric syndromes, of falls, impaired memory, incontinence, and functional impairment. Try to seek help early and see a geriatrician if you have actually any of the four, because it is quite important to get it treated early, because if older persons fall, it's probably going to be the most serious consequence, because then they actually deteriorate. Our goals have always been to keep people away from hospital, because once older persons gets admitted, you have seen a lot of people walking into hospital coming out on a wheelchair because they develop functional decline. The hospital is not an environment made for older persons at all. Mental health is something very, very important. Depression is very common in older adults, because you know with the change, with old age comes some people who retire and they actually now take on a different role, even in a family where they were the breadwinners, and now they have to depend on other people. So people actually find this role change depressing. There are also spouses who actually experience caregiver stress and depression when they have to take care of their spouse who might have any of the medical conditions. Substance abuse, alcohol, benzodiazepines is very common, as well as dementia. But this is an area which is not very well covered and not very well promoted, which is sleep. So actually, you notice that even when we grow to 50 years and above, sleep is very important. So when older persons, if any of you tell me I actually don't need very much sleep, that's probably not true. Because even for older persons, you need 7 to 8 hours of good sleep a day. And what actually decreases with age? Is it the need to sleep, which a lot of people tell? Or is it the ability to sleep that decreases with age? And it's actually that it is the ability to sleep that decreases with age, because a lot of older persons are actually very sleepy in the daytime. And hence, because when you do a MSLT, or we call them sleep latency test, they fall asleep very easily, which tells me that you're very sleepy. And a lot of people will say they have insomnia, they're awake a lot during the night, and they have unpleasant feeling in the legs. The first thing, of course, we need to tackle is a urine problem, because a lot of them have problems with renal concentrating abilities, and we say, please stop your fluids after 6 o'clock, pee before bedtime, then you don't wake up more than 2 times to sleep. That's the most important and probably the quickest cure for people who tend to wake up a lot at night to pee. And the problem is that when you don't sleep well, you wake up the next day, you have problems in sustaining attention, slow response time, impairments in memory and concentration, decreased ability to accomplish daily tasks. These sound like symptoms of dementia, right? But it's actually a consequence of poor sleep. Increased risk of falls, inability to enjoy social relationship, increased incidence of pain and reduced quality of life, and shorter survival. But what's also important is that in a recent study, it's been shown that poor sleep itself puts you probably at high risk of dementia in the first place. So this is actually fairly recent studies to actually come out to say that, and hence it's very, very important. I can't emphasize more, getting your 7-8 hours of sleep a day and reducing your nap time to less than an hour a day. The other thing to touch on mental wellness is to know when dementia strikes. And you know, a lot of us joke, and if you can't remember a single thing, you say, oh no, I'm having dementia now. But I think it's quite important to know that when we take a longer time, but we are able to actually still remember, still able to function in the community, that is not dementia. There is also what we call mild cognitive impairment, which is a pre-dementia state, where you might have mild problems with your memory, but they do not meet criteria for dementia. But importantly, you have to make sure that there's no depression, other psychiatric conditions, or temporal lobe epilepsy, which might mimic symptoms of dementia. So when you look at cognitive ability, we do not do a single test and screen and say you have dementia or you don't have dementia. It's not like your diabetes test. Why? Because it really depends. This, when it crosses the threshold, definitely there is dementia as you age. But let's say it's a housewife who's actually every day just cooking at home for her family and going to the market. She might actually not, and she had never had education before. If you actually subject her to the test, she might score very poorly, but she's still able to do most of the things, compared to a financial controller who actually passes the test, but now is not able to do his own bank account and who actually cannot manage stock and shares. So we do not look per se as a cutoff point, but as a trajectory to see whether there are problems to actually determine whether there is dementia. So normal aging, decrease in processing speed, we might take a longer time, but we are able to compensate with what we have learned before, which we call crystalline intelligence. And the forgetfulness is usually non-progressive. When people come to see us, the dementia is not over 1 week. It's usually they'll say, oh, it's happened over like 2-3 years, but this year is very prominent because we found that during Chinese New Year, they're not able to give the red packets, or they're very confused, they do not recognize the relatives who come and visit them. And in dementia, you need amnesia, which is forgetfulness, agnosia, and either of this. That means you have difficulty recognizing people, environment, misbuttoning, word-finding difficulties, like people who might learn 3 languages before they started in their childhood with Hokkien, then Chinese, then English, then you'll find that it's lost in the reverse order during that process itself. And executive functioning is something we actually look at very closely. Difficulty in planning, getting lost, managing your money, as well as judgment problems. We might have older folks who tend to buy, and so they actually tend to buy the same things over and over again. But importantly, other than one plus either of that, it needs to be a decline from a previous level of functioning, and it needs to impact on your daily living before we call it dementia. The complications of dementia are what a lot of people come to see us about, because these are things which people are worried about, not just the memory problems. What are the problems? Difficulties with activities of daily living, getting lost. If any of you are on social media, you can see every day there is a news about someone getting lost and someone being found again. Behavior problems. This is very, very commonly depicted. As a geriatrician, I get a little bit upset because I think that is a very negative portrayal of dementia, because not everybody who is demented has a behavior problem, and hence a lot of people don't seek help because they watch the TV and they're worried about the stigma when somebody says that you have dementia. But we have to face it that our population is aging. You are going to have people with dementia, but not all people with dementia actually have behavior problems. And what's actually the other thing which brings is the caregiver, a caregiver being very, very stressed up with a dementia patient. And hence, now we go back to our wellness theory. Why is dementia so difficult? Because people say, it won't happen to me. I know dementia happens in older persons, but it cannot be happening to me. It can happen to everyone else, but not me. The other thing is control. All of us want some control in our lives, and hence we want to maintain status quo. We don't want to change. We don't want to add new things. We don't want to learn new things. We don't want to modify our lifestyle to actually accommodate the illness. And hence these actually determine whether a person with dementia does well or does not do well. And hence the mental wellness theories now comes into play when you look at whether a person with dementia actually ages well or not. And very importantly, we believe in person-centered care principles where we place a very high value on the person experiencing dementia and acknowledging the importance of care partners. So we look at everybody very individually. There might be in care centers where they say, okay, everybody will do beads. But imagine Dr. Lim doing beads. He's not going to be very happy because it's not a person-centered care principle. Or asking you to do gardening, which you might not be happy with. So it's very important that even whatever therapy happens, it needs to be a very person-centered, where we look at the person as a whole. But it doesn't mean that now you say, oh, my mother don't want, so everything don't do. You get me? Because my mother don't want to go out, so let's not bring her out. We just let her stay at home. So all these things are very important when we actually formulate a plan for mental wellness, and to look at the individual as a person, where dementia only forms part of his total identity and not the whole identity, and he still possesses his own uniqueness and also the own identity and the ability to respond to the environment. And hence, the family and social network, which we mentioned before, also comes into play. There's never enough. The more friends and family you have to help out, it makes the caring process much easier. The care partner will attempt to discover and develop understanding of the individual, possessing rich history, and hence forms the basis of positive supporting relationship. I want to show you this video from Sil Alice. I'm not sure any of you have watched it yet, but this is a very touching video about Alice, who's a professor and had early onset Alzheimer's disease.
Please give me just a minute. Good morning. It's an honor to be here. The poet Elizabeth Bishop once wrote, "The art of losing isn't hard to master. So many things seem filled with the intent to be lost that their loss is no disaster." I am not a poet. I am a person living with early onset Alzheimer's, and as that person, I find myself learning the art of losing every day. Losing my bearings, losing objects, losing sleep, but mostly losing memories. I think I'll try to forget that just happened. All my life, I've accumulated memories. They've become, in a way, my most precious possessions. The night I met my husband, the first time I held my textbook in my hands, having children, making friends, traveling the world. Everything I accumulated in life, everything I've worked so hard for, now all that is being ripped away. As you can imagine, or as you know, this is hell. But it gets worse. Who can take us seriously when we are so far from who we once were? Our strange behavior and fumbled sentences change others' perceptions of us and our perception of ourselves. We become ridiculous, incapable, comic. But this is not who we are. This is our disease. And like any disease, it has a cause, it has a progression, and it could have a cure. My greatest wish is that my children, our children, the next generation, do not have to face what I am facing. But for the time being, I'm still alive. I know I'm alive. I have people I love dearly. I have things I want to do with my life. I rail against myself for not being able to remember things. But I still have moments in the day of pure happiness and joy. And please do not think that I am suffering. I am not suffering. I am struggling. Struggling to be a part of things, to stay connected to who I once was. So live in the moment, I tell myself. It's really all I can do. Live in the moment and not beat myself up too much. And not beat myself up too much for mastering the art of losing. One thing I will try to hold on to, though, is the memory of speaking here today. It will go. I know it will. It may be gone by tomorrow. But it means so much to be talking here today, like my old, ambitious self who was so fascinated by communication. Thank you for this opportunity. It means the world to me. Thank you.
So the takeaway message from this, she is struggling with dementia. She is not suffering from dementia. I think it's quite important to actually understand that. So what can we do if we actually have sleep problems? Maintaining healthy sleep-wake regime, maintaining regular sleep schedules. We limit the time in bed. If we are unable to sleep, within half an hour, get out and do other things. When you're sleepy, go back to bed. Avoid and minimize naps to 1 hour a day. Avoid caffeine after lunch. That will include tea, coffee, and Milo as well, or hot chocolate. Avoid alcohol in the evenings. A lot of people drink alcohol to sleep, but actually it makes you sleepy at first, and then subsequently you become more alert and you tend to drink more and more, and that's how alcohol dependence starts. Avoid nicotine at all times. Increase the time outdoors for exercise and light exposure. So you know melatonin, which is produced by the pineal gland. So I actually recommend for my patients to actually go out without sunglasses or hat or cap in the evenings to actually get some sun. So that actually provides exercise as well as endogenous melatonin release. And also, like what I mentioned before, limiting the liquid intake in the evenings. You can drink as much as you want during the daytime because there's a toilet nearby. But in the evenings, you want to avoid that because if you actually keep going to the toilet, number one, you're going to get disturbed sleep. Number two, you might actually fall down and result in more problems. So lastly, I'll cover a little bit about promoting brain health because that's what everyone wants to know about. There is no one magic pill or magic bullet which can actually get your memory better. But the main thing is this is actually a study done by the French, as you know. So they actually recommend, for them, drinking 1 to 3 drinks a day actually reduces the risk of dementia. But I think number one, public policy is difficult. Number two, we actually have a different liver enzyme system. So that might not be something we want to do, but definitely stop smoking because it increases the risk. Fish consumption, especially fatty fish, once weekly will decrease the risk by 60%. Dietary fat is prospectively inconsistent results. I think a lot of people talk about ginkgo nut or ginkgo leaf. Ginkgo does not, in many studies and big studies, have not been shown to actually help in memory problems at all. Vitamin E, there is some evidence, but you have to be careful at high doses with people with heart problems. Importantly, control the risk factors. If there's hypertension, stroke, history of heart problem, cholesterol problem that needs to be treated, elevated homocysteine, we might screen for this in patients with young strokes, diabetes, and smoking. So this needs to be controlled very strictly, not just to prevent the stroke type of dementia, but even Alzheimer's is being shown to actually affect. Leisure activities, effortful mental activities. Watching TV is of no use. The TV talks to you. You do not talk to the TV. You want something interactive. Reading, discussing the news, board games, musical instrument. I recommend doing Sudoku as well as word puzzles, because that will train the right and left side of the brain, cognitive training. Just start learning new things, go to the CC and start doing the courses, because that's going to be what is going to help. Physical activities, like what I mentioned before, walking actually modulates because it changes the BDNF in the brain. And lastly, social. So people who are very isolated, disengaged, actually have an increased risk of dementia. So of all the trials which has been done for dementia so far, in the dementia prevention trial, this finger trial, which is done by Kivipelto in Finland, has been the only positive trial so far. And it requires you to take a modified Mediterranean diet, which is to take vegetables every day, take fish at least 3 times a week, as well as avoid high cholesterol food. DASH diet is something which the Americans have looked at, and is a hypertension lowering diet. And they also recommend taking nuts as well, walnuts, which might actually help. But it's very, very difficult to stick on this diet. So I suggest you stick on this diet Monday to Saturdays, and then Sunday you leave it for family time and eat a normal diet. Physical activity and dose response, again, we're talking about resistance training, as well as aerobic training, which is important, and of course, balance training. Cognitive training, very important. Go onto iPad. Most of us have an iPhone. I see people taking pictures. And so you just go to the iPad, you can actually look at Lumosity or any of the games which are available, and you try to learn new things. Play Mahjong. Okay, Mahjong is fairly interesting. It's not like the casino. Because Mahjong, you need to plan, you need to strategize, you need to see what they're throwing, and yet you need to control your own cards. And it's actually quite a social activity which lasts for 4 hours. So we highly recommend playing Mahjong. Lastly, again, metabolic and vascular risk factors. Again, controlling all the risk factors and also checking the cholesterol and glucose whenever there are actually health checks which are in your community. Lastly, I'd like to thank you, and I'll take any further questions.
Thank you very much. And now we would like to present a token of appreciation to Dr. Chong. Thank you, Dr. Chong. And of course, the one question. Okay, any questions from the floor? No? There's a lady there. For those who are moving out, don't go yet, because we have lucky draw. You go out, maybe you're the lucky winner, no?
Dr. Chong, thank you for the comprehensive sharing. I got 2 quick questions. One is Alzheimer and dementia, what's the difference? And the other question is, just hold on, forgetfulness slip in.
It's okay.
Struggling with Alzheimer and not suffering from Alzheimer, what's the difference? I thought struggling is even worse. Suffering, you just leave it alone.
Okay, dementia is a very general term, but there are different types of dementia, of which Alzheimer's is the most common type of dementia. And so you know Ronald Reagan, Rajaratnam all had Alzheimer's dementia, while Margaret Thatcher had vascular dementia, which is the stroke-related dementias. So dementia is a general term, of which Alzheimer's is the most common, vascular dementia, and in the younger group, the 50 years old who present to the psychiatrist with a lot of behavior problems, stripping or judgment issues, that's another type of dementia. The second point is, when you say a person is suffering from dementia, you are connoting the fact that the person is suffering. To struggle from dementia means I have dementia, but I'm trying to make my life as normal as possible, to live my life in the way I would like to live. So suffering and struggling is quite different, because a lot of people, even when they joke, they say, you see that person has dementia, a bit crazy, a bit loopy, you know. That is a very negative aspect, and what we call a very ageist view of older adults, of older persons, and hence that suffering will come like, ayo, very poor thing. But struggling means I'm trying my best. That's why people want to build dementia-friendly communities, because if you're struggling and you're trying to board the bus, but you are trying to. So let me help you, tap your EasyLink card. You tell me where you're going to stop, I will help you get down. So I'm struggling, but I still can make it, and I can still be an independent, and I can still live as much as possible. For example, one of my patients, he's 90 years old, he likes to go to the casino. But we don't stop him because this is the only thing he likes to do, okay? Even though his respiratory physician says, you go to casino, there's so much smoke, your lungs are not good. But importantly, he has enough money to hire a driver. But he prefers his wife to drop him at the MRT station, and he has successfully made it to Marina Bay and come home. Why? He says, I feel alive when I'm sitting on the train and I see people moving in and out. And you know, when you sit on the train, you see a lot of activities, right? And he says that's when I feel alive. So this person is struggling with dementia. Is he suffering? He's not suffering. He is still taking the train. He can still make it to the casino, maybe let the casino earn a little bit of money, come back. And he still enjoys living rather than to say, I'm suffering from dementia, so I stay at home, I lock myself up. Why? Because we want to be protective. We don't want you to get lost. We don't want you to have illness. So it is what we call a mental shift, and to change that lens which we look at aging, we look at older persons, which is very, very important.
Yep, thank you. Any more question?
I have one question. Is it true that those cancer patients are prone to dementia? Because cancer patients, they undergo chemo and many of their nerve cells are destroyed. So are they prone to dementia?
Actually, very interesting is that studies, even in nature, has actually shown that people who have cancer do not get dementia. But in the clinical practice, I have not seen that to be true. So there are two reasons for that. Number one is because the cancer actually limits your lifespan, and hence you don't see the neurodegenerative illnesses coming up. Because they believe in the gene, the P53, which is neuroprotective, but which is mutated in cancer. Yeah. And yes, there are certain chemotherapy agents which may affect the memory, or when you do hormonal therapy. Even though hormonal therapy has not been proven to help in dementia patients, but I have got patients who perhaps are at the brink of dementia, but once they start sort of like anti-androgen therapy for their prostate because you want to suppress the testosterone, then their dementia symptoms come up, or other hormonal therapy for breast cancer and stuff like that. So it is a very controversial because it depends on how you're looking at it. Yeah.
All right, thank you very much. Thank you, Dr. Chong. So now we're going to go on for the lucky draw. Oh, okay, I think you're very excited. All right. Okay, with this, we have 5 prizes to give away. Each, we have the most expensive one. This is the Kado Air Purifier that's worth $699. So with this, I would like to invite the Deputy CEO of Merchandising NTUC FairPrice, Mr. Teng Ayam, to come on stage to draw for us the 5 lucky winners. First one. Yeah, okay. 1298. 1298. Have a look at your lucky draw number. Huh? Yes or no? 1298. Maybe you walk out already. See, I told you. When you don't look for it, it will come to you. 1298. It always happens. 1298. Calling once. 1298. Calling twice. 1298. No, never mind. 1461. 1461. 1461. Calling once. 1461. Calling twice. 1461. No. Let's move on. 1291. 1291. Lucky. Congratulations. Okay, this is the shower filter worth $59. Next, 1415. Yo. Oh. Yeah. 你站那边吧，不是我一脚就掉下去了。Come, come. Yeah, let's on the lights. Thank you. All right, let's move on to the next one. One three nine zero. 1390. 1390. Oh, yours is the 1415. Okay. 1390. Are you there? 1390. Is that you, ma'am? Congratulations. Nice. Very nice of you. People win prizes, you clap. Normally events, they don't clap. Yeah. That's very nice. Because those who clap will have the luck to win prize as well. Yeah, true. Next. 1317. 1317. Slowly, slowly. It's okay. This is the last. Yeah. Now it's the grand prize. This is yeah, correct. 699. Oh, you? Is this person? This one, heart pain. Suddenly fly out, then go inside. Well, you must remember this, yeah? It's all predestined. 1317. Yes, congratulations. Consolation. Next one is 14. Anybody's number starts with 14. Put up your hand. Let me see. Where? 14. Okay, the third number. Whose number? 14, the third number. If your third number is 6 and above, put up your hand. Okay, you can start pack your things and go home. You can start fill up your form. 145. Anybody 145? Good. 1458. Ayo. Are you here? No, she's going out. I know one. If let's say it's her, she will just come out straight, won't take her bags. 1458, calling once. Hey, oh, great. See? She won't take her bag. That's her. Congratulations, and this is worth $699. Yeah? You can always call a cab to bring this home. Yeah. Oh, good. And right, we are very happy to have with us Mr. Teng today, and of course our guests together from NTUC. Thank you so much. Thank you for thank you. Hey, wait, hold on, don't go yet. Salah lah, listen to my instruction. That door is locked lah. Please go from this side, yeah. And for my Indian friends, happy Deepavali. All right, friends, please go from this side. The side is locked already. Remember, we have another event going on November 26th. Thank you, Mr. Teng. Thank you very much. Thank you. Round of applause, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us. My name is CK. I want to wish every one of you, good health always. All right? That's the most expensive thing that we should have. Good health. All right? Thank you very much and have a nice weekend, a nice week ahead. Thank you and bye-bye.